Hey guys, Sensei Jason, SHORIN-RYU.CA, working on some of my roundhouse kicks. This video is going to talk a little bit about the roundhouse kick and some of the cool exercises you can do to help you develop the core strength that you need and flexibility that you need in order to execute a decent roundhouse kick. So stick around and check it out. Okay guys, if you're like me and you're working on your roundhouse kick, there's a couple of things that you need to know before you start working towards executing a decent roundhouse kick. In my opinion, and you need three distinct abilities in order to execute a roundhouse kick properly. The first thing you're going to need is core strength, and I get feedback from people, emails, questions from people saying, Sensei Jason, you're always emphasizing the importance of core strength, and that's absolutely true. In martial arts and in any sport, any physical activity, core strength really builds up the fundamental strength that you require in order to execute any kind of martial arts technique or sports technique, whatever it is that you're trying to execute. Core strength makes up a really important part of that. So you need to really work and develop and hone your core strength. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. The second thing that you need is balance. Again, for many martial arts exercises or techniques, balance is required, and the roundhouse kick is absolutely no exception. In fact, because you're spinning and you're on one foot at a certain point in time, and perhaps you're even jumping in the air and doing a jumping spinning kick, in order to get into that position that you need to be in, you need to have your balance ironed out. You need to work on balance techniques. You need to complement that with core strength training in order to be able to execute a decent roundhouse kick. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some balance exercises that you can do. And the third thing you need, again, no-brainer, is flexibility. I see a lot of people, a lot of students struggling with not just roundhouse kicks, but kicks in general, Mwashigari roundhouse kick, and it really comes down to flexibility. If you do not have the ability to open your pelvis and have that ability and that flexibility and that strength to get your leg up into that optimal position, you're really going to struggle not only with doing a roundhouse kick, but with doing any sort of kick in general. So flexibility is really important, and we're going to talk about a couple of flexibility exercises that you can do to help you with your roundhouse kick. All right, first thing we want to talk about is core strength, number one on the list. So let's get right down to it. There's a ton of different exercises that you can do to develop your core strength. We're going to focus on some of the more basic techniques for people who are beginning, okay, and trying to get their core strength going, trying to get it up to a level where they can start to practice things like roundhouse kicks, okay? So first we'll focus on the abs, okay? So obviously doing sit-ups, okay, are great for developing abdominal strength, okay? And there's different variations of sit-ups that you can do. Make sure that when you're doing your sit-up, you're not pulling on your head, okay? It's very important that when you're doing any sort of sit-up that really you should be looking up at the ceiling and just trying to pull your shoulder blades off the ground, okay? That really engages your ab muscles, okay? And again, you can do all kinds of variations to this, okay? You can do where you're sort of bringing up and trying to reach over, okay, and touching that elbow to that knee on either side, okay, focusing in, all right? You can do straight leg sit-ups, okay, with your hands up in the air, and you're basically trying to reach up and sort of touch the ceiling with your fingers. Again, you want to get the shoulder blades off the ground, okay, so you're really focusing in on your ab muscles, okay? There's other exercises that you can do, maybe not on a hard floor like we have here, but if you've got like a tatami mat or a yoga mat or something, you can do exercises where you start in this position and then you're sort of really trying to get up into a sit position with your legs flat, okay? This called tombstone sit-up, okay? Where you're coming all the way up, okay? Full range of motion, okay? So other exercises that you can do, hands at the side, and instead of going up, you're sort of going side to side, and you're trying to touch your ankles with your feet, okay? Back and forth. Shoulder blades off the ground the entire time, okay? And then you're sort of working the sides. of your body here by doing this back and forth, okay? For other core strength exercises that you can do, planks are great, okay? This position, making sure that you're keeping your back straight, okay, the entire time. You can do military push-ups if you want to make it interesting, just sort of repeating this action over and over again the entire time, keeping your core engaged and trying to keep your back aligned, all right? So this good military push-up is a really great exercise to develop your core strength. Okay, so those are just a few real simple exercises that you can start right now to help you develop your core strength and help you get to that roundhouse kick that you're trying to perform. Okay, some of the other things that you need to focus on, number 2 in the list, is balance. Okay, so again, lots of exercises that you can do to help you increase your balance over time. Okay, you might want to start with doing things like going into a squat, okay, coming up, holding it on one foot, 2, 3, 4, 5, down, up, other foot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just repeating these kinds of exercises where you're sort of getting up on one foot, because that helps to develop your balance over time, okay? You could do other sort of balance exercises like doing a kick, just coming up to the knee position, holding it, and getting back. And the idea is when you get up into this position, you want to get it so that you're not sort of like wobbling around too much up here, okay? It just becomes a very smooth movement. Up, down, switch feet, okay? You want to try, you should be able to do this with some proficiency on both sides of your body, okay? Other exercises you might want to do is doing kicks in slow motion and then trying to hold that kick in the extended position. So if I was doing a washigiri, you know, I'd be coming through, kick, hold it, 2, 3, back, up, kick, out, hold it, 2, 3, back. Other side, same thing, okay? You're sort of going slow motion through some of your kicks. This really helps you sort of develop a sense of your balance. Also, again, helps you develop your core strength. Back to point number 1, but most importantly, helping you develop the balance that you really need. Other exercises that you can do, standing with your feet flat like this, lift one foot off the ground, and then try to, if you can, come all the way down into a squat position with your foot off the ground the entire time, and then all the way back up. Switch, try it on the other foot, back and forth. These sorts of exercises help you develop your balance, and then will then help you get to that position that you need to be in order to execute a proper roundhouse kick. All right, the final point in my list is, of course, flexibility. And in order to get flexible, what do you need to do? Well, obviously you got to start stretching, okay? So stretching exercises are super important if you want to get to a position where you can execute not just a roundhouse kick, but I mean really any kick. Let's think about it. The higher you want to get your kick, the more you need to be able to open that pelvis in many cases, and therefore you need to really work on your flexibility. You can check out on the internet, I mean there's a barrage of exercises that you can do to help you increase your flexibility. So I've just sort of picked out a few that I like to work on when I'm conducting classes here at the dojo, and I thought I'd pass them on to you. Maybe you guys can find some use in them, okay? So a lot of my stretching exercises occur with, you know, sitting in sort of this open leg position where I'm reaching towards my ankle or my heel or my leg, depending on, you know, your level of flexibility. Anything will do, okay? So you're reaching out and grabbing the hold, putting your hand down on your kneecap, and then what you're really trying to do is trying to bring your chin down to your knee, and you're just sort of like holding this position, and you just count through this, whether you're holding it for 5 or for 10 seconds, you know, it depends on if you're warmed up or not warmed up, and then switching to the other knee, or other leg, sorry, and sort of doing very much of the same thing where you're holding. When you get warmed up, what things you can do, like when you're holding this, is you can actually sort of breathe out and sort of try to get a little bit more out of the stretch by sort of dipping back and forth like this when you're doing the stretch. Okay, so you can do these types of exercises. You can do the other exercises like the butterfly, which is a popular, real traditional one, where you've got your feet sort of pulled in towards your groin, cupping your feet like this, and then you're using your elbows to kind of push down on your calves. And what you're trying to do here is you're trying to bring your knees down towards the floor. And I like to sometimes sort of get into this sort of rocking motion where I'm kind of going back and forth like this. It just, for me, seems to add a little bit something more and helps me loosen up a little bit more when I'm doing the stretch, okay? You can do the similar exercise with your feet forward, of course, where then you're grabbing sort of both your ankles or perhaps your heel, depending on how flexible you are, and you're sort of working the same stretch forward, counting, and sort of doing this sort of dipping motion again, trying to get a little bit more out of the stretch, okay? Other stretches that you can do are this sort of figure 4 here, where you have one leg up. You take your elbow of your opposite arm, wrap it around, and then you're sort of using your arm to twist, and you're breathing out, and you're sort of just stretching this way. Helps to sort of loosen up the side of the body down through the pelvis, okay? You're holding this for a period of time, whether it's 5 seconds or 10 seconds, okay? And then you're switching, sort of going back this way, okay? Same idea. Other exercises that you can do to help you open your pelvis, again, a little bit easier to do on a tatami mat or a yoga mat. But hey, look, if you're hardcore and you have a hardwood deck and you want to still do it, more power to you. You sort of get into this position here, where you'd almost be doing a split if you could open your legs fully. But I can't, so I won't. And you're trying to bring your pelvis down, where you're going down towards the floor, and you're just sort of hold. This is a great exercise for helping you open up that pelvis. And then you can just sort of rest here and count, again, depending on how long you've been doing it, is going to reflect how long you're holding the count for, okay? And then you sort of come up, maybe shake it off a little bit, and then have a bit of a rest period, and then get back down and do that again, okay? Other exercises that you might like doing are at the beginning of class when you're stretching. You might want to be having your students get down, or have yourself get down into this position, where you're, again, stretching the hamstring all the way down the leg, helping your leg get a little bit more flexible, okay? And you're sort of rotating back and forth into this position. This is a very traditional karate stretch. You'll see it at a lot of dojos. Again, you're just sort of working the hamstring, trying to open up the hamstring a bit to allow you to get that kick a little bit higher. Also, other stretches, again, another traditional karate stretch that you might see quite a bit of, where you're standing with your legs locked out straight like this. You've got your hands on the ground, and you're sort of dropping your elbows down to the ground, and you're sort of doing it slowly. So it'll be like a count of 3. So 1, 2, 3, down, hold it, 1, 2, 3, up. And then as you become more skilled and more flexible over time, of course you want to start working your hands back. Okay, so you might start with your hands up here, and then, a couple months from now, maybe be able to move your hands back a couple of inches and sort of do the same exercise, where you're just bringing that elbow down towards the ground and holding it and doing your stretch that way. So those are just a couple of stretches that you can do to increase your flexibility. And of course, that'll help you get into a position where you're able to open that pelvis up, in the case of a roundhouse kick, and execute a better roundhouse kick. Okay guys, so that's about it. I want to thank you for coming out and checking out my video. Just as a quick recap, if you're working on a roundhouse kick, you want to maybe focus on these 3 core areas. You want to do lots of exercises to help you build your core strength. We talked a little bit about some different sit-ups, plank position, military push-up, that sort of thing. You want to focus on balance by doing lots of different exercises where you're at some point coming up on one foot and sort of holding it there for a while. And of course you want to work on flexibility, which will allow you to get that pelvis and that hamstring into the position that you want it to be in, so that you can execute a proper kick. So if you guys have any comments or questions, please post your comments and questions at the bottom of the YouTube video. And if you're in Oshawa, as always, please come by the dojo and check it out. I'm Sensei Jason from SHORIN-RYU.CA, and looking forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.